Kevin. It's another week, another podcast.
Yeah. I feel like I just left last week.
Yeah,
doing a podcast. So it's 2 in a row now.
Yeah,
working out.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody to Rage Select podcast here. I am Jeff. I've got Kevin with me, and we are going to talk about some video game news, and we're going to take some of your emails. But before we do anything, Kevin, you told me that you went to the drive-in movies last night. I don't want this to be a theme for every show, but I want you to tell me about your drive-in experience, because we talked about that a little bit last week, and now it's just got me itching for drive-thru.
You know, it was there was actually one of those Groupon things for the drive-in here, so it was like $9 for 2 tickets for 2 movies, and I saw Elysium and This Is the End, which are both really good. And they had recently switched the projectors there from this is like a big thing among drive-ins because they're switching them all from film to digital.
Right.
So a whole bunch of them are going to close because it's like $70,000 per camera to switch.
I didn't know it was that expensive.
Yeah, for drive-ins, apparently it's more expensive than a regular movie theater because you got to have, like, you know, a stronger whatever.
It's going to be more like rugged to be outside and shit, since it's not in a controlled environment.
Well, people are throwing rocks at it and stuff. So, but the picture is like way better digitally. Just amazing.
People just go to the drive-thru and just throw rocks and shit at them. Like, hey man, I'm gonna break that shit this time.
It's like, screw you! I hate this movie. I'm breaking the camera.
Well, so wait a minute. I've actually heard a lot of, I don't know. You never got a chance to come down here, but. Or have you been down here to hang out with the folks down here?
No, never been to Texas.
Okay, well, I can tell a lot of the people that I hang around with do, movies and movie reviews and that sort of thing. So when a new movie comes out, like, we know the guy who sets up the press screening. So, like, I got to go to a press screening for Star Trek, and that was really cool because I didn't have to, fight the general audiences. But I've been hearing a lot of people talking about Elysium, and they're all just like, meh. But the thing is, it's one of those things like it was with Pacific Rim, where the things that they're saying meh about just get me all jazzed up. They're like, well, there wasn't really enough characterization. And I'm like, I care about is people blowing shit up, man. Like, if I want to watch characterization, I'll watch Breaking Bad. And in fact, that's what I do when I want to watch characterizations. I watch, Breaking Bad or like Sherlock or, anything that comes out of the BBC, Luther. Like, if I want a real deep character piece, I prefer these TV shows where they get like 25 episodes, 25 1-hour episodes, as opposed to 90 minutes where it's like, to me, it seems like there's a trade-off there, right? Like, you can either take the time to make somebody care real deeply about a character, or you can kind of just give us a generic archetype and then be like, you're not here for this. This isn't... What's that movie... Guys, a movie I saw a long time ago that was like it's like a scientist and a poet and somebody else, and they were just sitting around talking for like 2 hours. And that was the entire movie. They were talking about life and shit. And it was a cool movie, but like... Mark Wahlberg in an exoskeleton having a cup of coffee with Jodie Foster debating the merits of socialized health care is not really a reason for me to spend $12 to go to the big screen.
No. It's the guy from District 9, and he comes up with very creative ways to kill people. Mm-hmm. Very futuristic weapons and things you've never really seen before, and he does it in a realistic, gritty kind of way. And you're totally right, though. The characters in the film are very cookie cutter. But I don't care. I thought it was a good movie.
I've just been seeing. There's a lot of my friends who are film critics or who watch a lot of movies or whatever. I don't really watch as many movies as most other people. I play games. That's my focus. But a lot of these people seem to be getting really hung up recently on characterization in a story.
Yeah.
That, like, if it doesn't have these real deep, nuanced characters, they can't enjoy it for whatever reason. I'm just like, dude, I don't really. Some movies and things do that, and it's cool when they do, and it makes for that a good movie. But like, I put my dick on the chopping block with this one, like I always do. But like in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, one of the reasons that I wasn't super into those was that I felt like they did too much characterization. Like, it's too much about the individual character, and there's not enough, like, fucking Batman in my Batman movie, yo. I don't.
Yeah. With the original Superman, it's like 70s. They didn't have the budget to do the stuff they can do today. But the I agree with you. Roger Ebert, he says a lot of stupid things when he was still around. But the one thing he could seem to understand that a lot of movie critics couldn't understand was that some movies are just popcorn movies.
Right.
You're just there to eat the popcorn and enjoy the scenery and the action and everything, and you don't have to get all crying during the movie.
Right. Yeah, you don't need. I mean, yeah, that was one of the things I guess about Pacific Rim. A lot of people, and I've long past the point of trying to convince somebody to like something they don't like, or convince somebody to dislike something that they do like. But there were a lot of people with Pacific Rim that were just like, I didn't care about the characters. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Neither did I. But I didn't give a shit because I wanted to see the robots punch stuff.
Yeah.
That's all I really cared about was robots hitting stuff.
People are spoiled.
But
they should go back and just sit in a room and watch those 50s things with the claymation dinosaurs fighting each other, and then put them back into now and watch movies, and then they'll rethink their stupid opinions.
Let me ask you, Kevin, do you watch Breaking Bad? Speaking of Breaking Bad?
Oh yeah, great show.
Have you keep up with it? Did you see this week's
I'm
episode?
right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like Jason doesn't like Breaking Bad, so I can't talk with him about it.
Jeez, that's the first person I've met that doesn't like Breaking Bad.
Yeah, but
shocking.
This week, I'm not gonna. Guys, I'm not spoiling anything here. What I'm going to say is this week's Breaking Bad. The very last scene of this week's Breaking Bad. It's like I've been watching it, and I was watching it, and it was getting pretty long. I knew they were getting close to the end, and they got to the setup in that last scene, and I was like, oh, don't you do it, motherfucker. Don't you stop this episode before that... you son of a bitch! 7 days, fuck!
Yeah, but even if it, I'm not going to ruin it here, but even if he starts talking... he could be discredited. Well, you know what I mean? He's such a bad,
you gotta talk about it. No, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not enough. It's just not enough. So but then again, they gotta wrap it up, man. They only got
six
episodes left. I mean, they gotta do it. So
yeah. No,
but we sort of at the very beginning of this season, or whatever, this half of the season. I'm not ruining anything here because if anybody turned it on, they'll see. We don't really know what happened. I mean, his house is destroyed. Well, he's got an M60 in the trunk.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? Something happens.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know. I watched a hell of a lot of Breaking Bad this weekend because I on Friday I went out drinking with Allison and Kristen from Sparkle Fandango and Elliot, a friend of ours who runs a Inside the Locker sportscast over at oneofus.net. And I fell asleep on Friday with my contacts in, and
oh man,
which I used to leave my contacts in 24 hours a day. It wasn't a big thing when I was a teenager, and finally my optometrist was just like, you have to start taking them out, or you're going to start damaging your face. But I woke up on Saturday and I had a contact infection in my left eye. And it was the weirdest thing because I've had, being a dumb kid who left his contacts in for too long, I've had contact infections before, but this one was weird because I was super sensitive to light. So I would go outside and I had to keep one eye closed, and it was weird because I could watch TV, but I couldn't play video games because the video games keep my eyes open, like they're more focused on the television, whereas just zoning out to TV, your eyes kind of go into this low power mode. So I spent the entire weekend laying on the couch, and it really bummed me out because I wanted to get through a couple of games before this. This week is just Dow, of games. Saints Row, XCOM, Splinter Cell, Dive Kick. I mean, all these different things are coming out. And I'm really excited because it's finally we're starting to get into the crazy. This is the ramp up to the crazy time. This is like spring for me of video games. Stuff is happening. It's nice outside, but it's not too hot yet because we get into especially with the consoles launching this year. Once we get into the back half of the year, it's just it's going to be hell. It's going to be crazy hell trying to focus on all that stuff all at once.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they did. I don't know if this is in your news thing, but they did release the launch dates today for PlayStation 4.
Yeah. This is the week before Black Friday. I'm actually we're recording this on. I mean, this is going to come out on Wednesday, I guess. We're recording this on Tuesday. I'm going to kind of save that Gamescom stuff though for next week because there's plenty of stuff that's been released, but we're going to have a little bit shorter than average show this week. So. Given that, let's. Go ahead.
I was just going to tell the audience we're time travelers. We go back in time.
That's right.
And then
to set
record the show and then release it the same day by coming back into the future.
That's right.
I don't know.
We set right the things that once went wrong, hoping that the next leap will be the leap home. You could be the what was that? Not Ziggy. Who was Scott Bakula's his sidekick?
Oh,
Dean
my
Stan.
God.
What was his character's name? All I remember is Ziggy. Ziggy was the computer that went boop, 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 boop.
We're talking Quantum Leap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the main guy's name though was
Admiral Al Calavici. That's Dean.
Al.
Parker.
Yeah. Al. Yeah. Sam Beckett and Al. Yeah.
Yeah, and Deborah Pratt, Ziggy. Yep.
Yeah. In fact, if I said Sam Bakula before I meant I said Scott Bakula. I don't like that motherfucker that much. I'm not a big Bakula fan.
Yeah. No, I didn't really. I never actually. I mean, I never really watched much Quantum Leap, to be honest with you.
I watched it, but it was like one of those things where I watched it in spite of myself. As I would watch it and go, man, why am I still watching this? I really don't like it all that much. Like, it's just a reason to do a preachy period piece every single week. Like, I far prefer Star Trek when it comes to my sci-fi. At least they're flying around in the Enterprise, getting shit done, and then you've got like, okay, I'm going to go fight racism every week. I'm going to fight more racism. Like, oh God, he never went into the future either. Like, like have him go into the future. I would rather watch reruns of Automan than Quantum Leap, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying.
or Manimal.
I used to watch, what is that, Sliders? That was kind of similar, and I watched that a lot, but because they would all move together. Plus, it had Kari Wurr in it when she was hot, so that was kind of.
There was a time when there was all these different shows that were like sci-fi shows in the mid '90s. I didn't watch any of them, except for Briscoe County Jr. because fucking obviously.
Yeah.
But there was like Lex and.
Farscape was before.
Farscape is good. I won't have any bad talk about Farscape.
Yeah, sci-fi was. Well, I think sci-fi still has a lot of crazy shows on now. I don't watch all of them.
Sequest DSV.
Yeah, I was never into Sequest.
What was the Earth with Gene Roddenberry? Earth 2090? No, that's a different thing. Earth.
There was Cleopatra 2099.
Earth 2, was that it?
Or there was an Earth 2. There was also that. Yeah, Tech War.
Tech War. I think that was direct to DVD movies though, wasn't it?
I think there was a series limit. It didn't go very well.
Because isn't that's fucking Scientology dude, right? F. Scott or not F. Scott Fitzgerald, L. Ron Hubbard. Sorry, that was real bad on my part. No, I thought he was my dad when I was a kid used to read a lot of pulpy sci-fi, and I thought that he. Let's see, Tech War. Are you sure Tech War?
Earth Final Conflict. Yeah, Shatner was involved with it.
Yeah. No, I remember that, but I thought it was a book series before that. I could be totally, I don't know. I could be totally
there was a TV movie, 1994, Tech War. And then, let's see, it was, it says nothing to do with video games, everyone. Well, maybe there was a Tech War video game. I don't know.
Oh, there was. William Shatner's Tech War, the video game.
There we go.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole bunch of novels. You're right.
It wasn't
89 to 97.
But it was Ron Goulart, not L. Ron Hubbard. So sorry about that. Shatner, man. I want to see more Shatner in video games, especially now. That dude will do anything. Put him in the next fucking Last of Us 2 with Shatner as Shatner. I mean, we already got Keith David as in Saints Row 4 as Vice President Keith David. So all I'm saying is, I don't know, throw some Shatner in there. But all right, you know what? Let's move it on a little bit to the news. We got a lot to get through before we're done here. So I got a few news stories here. Like I said, we're gonna save the Gamescom stuff for next week. But the first one I've got, and I don't know if this is big news. You can tell me, Kevin, if you care. If not, we can just move on. But apparently, Call of Duty Ghosts is throwing in female soldiers in multiplayer.
Well, I mean, it's good since they're now. We talked about this on the loading bar at one point where we mentioned that now there'd be females in the games since they are now allowed to be in combat. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like I haven't watched the video that's associated with it, but I think it's good. I mean, I think that there's probably people who might be a little bit irked off about this. I've been doing so much reading and looking at stuff when it comes to ladies with video games. But I think it's a good move. And there was something before about...
As long as it's not like TV, where the girl, like when she gets captured by the enemy, they try and rape her, you know, and then that's somehow worse than the guy getting shot in the head.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want her to get shot in the head, too. I don't have any rape in my video games. I wanted the equal opportunist, everybody who gets, you know, the same, either that or there's got to be, like, male rape as well, which we don't want any of that. So
Kevin.
It just has to be equal killing for all. If there's going to be girls in games, they have to die like the men. That's all I'm saying. If we're going to play games where we blow people's arms off,
right,
and, you know, snipe them in the head and stuff, it's got to be allowed. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
I hope that you never run for political office.
I know they're going to find all this audio.
No, I was just thinking I can already think of like 6 different ways to cut that audio together to make you seem really terrible. Like, you could just cut out all the parts talking about women and just string together all of the man rape quotes. Boom. Done. None of us could ever hold public office.
I just think it's a TV trope. You know, anytime there's a woman in bad guys, you know, it always goes to the rape.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, I've seen so many movies. I mean, you have too. I mean, we've seen so many movies in TV, and you just see it coming in everything you watch. You're like, here it comes. Here comes the next 10 minutes of, you know, expected outcome.
Well, it goes back to something that we've talked about earlier. As far as, in my opinion, what it comes to me as is something that we've talked about a few times before. To me, it's garbage storytelling.
Yes, exactly.
You're doing this for shock value because you can't think of a better way to make us outraged. And so it's like you scrolled through the list to find terrible shit that people can do. It's like shooting a dog. You know, you shoot a dog and then everybody goes, "Oh, I hate that guy. He shot a dog." Yeah. You know, or like he's super rapey with that woman, and it's like, "Oh, we don't like him." And it's you know, we go back to when we were talking before about characterization in movies. It's like, that's a cheap way to make you care about or to make you dislike somebody when it would probably only take you about 5 minutes to make you dislike them in any other way possible outside of being all rapey and shit. Like,
yeah. It's just in everything. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't want it in my video games. I just don't want those stupid tropes in my games.
Or, that's I guess the thing is that if you you know, not to, it's tricky to say these sorts of things, but like, you know, if that is part of a, I don't know.
No fear, Jeff. No fear.
Well, I guess I'm saying
throw it out
like,
there.
If you're using it as a cheap way to engender hate towards a character in a video game, I don't really like that very much. If it's a legitimate thing that is part of your story and that you're, you know, treating the subject matter with the respect that it deserves, you know, eventually we're going to come to, like we talked before about how I don't like That Dragon Cancer, but I don't like it because it's such a gut punch. And so is that as well. So if you're going to use it, I say use it be respectful of your subject matter and don't just be like, ha, aren't you outraged? And like, yes, I am. You know, don't start off your game with killing off a kid video games.
Right. Yes.
You know? Yeah, because that's fucking Bambi syndrome. That's like, of course I'm sad, but I hate you because I'm sad. Like it actually pisses me off. Like I'm just like, oh God, that's a terrible tragedy, and fuck you for writing such a dumb tragedy into the first 5 minutes of your fucking video game. All right, now we've got done with me screaming and shit.
Get out the hate.
We're
all cleaned out now. We feel good.
Can't leave it inside. It'll fester, and then you'll get, you know,
it's like therapy. This show.
Yeah.
Get the rage part out.
No,
the rage selection.
I lay on my couch. I lay on my therapy couch with the laptop strung over my head. All right. Well, here's another story that I found that I think is kind of interesting, and this is that Jason Holtman, who used to be, let's see, was the business development director over at Valve, is now joining up with Microsoft to help run their PC game division.
Holtman I heard about that.
Yeah, Holtman left Valve in February during a round of layoffs. He managed Valve's Steam platform, working with the company for 8 years, and that he's now, let's see, I've joined Microsoft where I'll be focusing on making Windows a great platform for gaming and interactive entertainment. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for Microsoft to deliver games and entertainment customers. I think there's a lot of opportunity for Microsoft to deliver the games and entertainment customers want, and to work with developers to make that happen. So I'm excited to be here, and I couldn't be happier about this, because I think that of all places, it seems like Microsoft should have gotten this shit streamlined and locked down. And I don't know, it's weird, because outside of Steam, it just seems like there's a lot of just like there's so much like these services seem really awkward for the year 2013. Like
yeah, I can see that.
We're getting
okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like the report that we got about Xbox Live finally going over to real money. And it's like, fucking A, it's about goddamn time that we start streamlining this stuff. I mean, I know Nintendo's never going to get their shit under control, because, they move real fucking slow. But, it seems like I've got Windows 7, and Windows 7 doesn't handle games any better than Windows 95 does. You install a game, it goes into a stupid directory with everything else, and that's why I like Steam, is I run everything through Steam, and they tried launching that like My Games, just double click and go to My Games, but it doesn't ever work right. You got to add stuff, and it's just like bleh.
I think the other problem is just that there's other services that are competing, that you have to get certain games from those services like Origin, if you want to play those games, and you can't work through Steam. Steam's nice because it's the most popular, but there's a whole bunch of other services. I think I have I literally think I have about 7 or 8 services on my gaming PC in order to get all the things from all the different and I don't know what all these things are doing on my machine. They really just need to come up with some universal way to I don't know, sell the games on the different services. It's just why do they have to be all exclusive about it?
What I think would be nice is if Microsoft. I mean, this is just me talking out my ass into the air, but I think it would be nice if Microsoft concentrated less. I mean, they're still going to want to sell games. They're going to want to sell their games through their App Store or whatever on Windows 8 or whatever comes after that. But I think it would be better if they were to focus on just making, talk to places like Origin and Steam or whatever. And if they could make something that was built into Windows that could log into Steam, so you're still buying your shit on Steam, but make it a Windows application that was able to, or even if it's just some kind of I don't even know how this works. Some kind of API where you can run Steam and Origin and whatever all inside of one manager in Windows that shows where all your different games are, so that you didn't have to. So that it was more like a cell phone type of thing where it's like, here is my Windows game app. Right?
Yeah.
And then you add sub-apps in there of I'm going to install Steam for this because I've got and now I'm going to install Origin. So that instead of having 6 different programs installed, you had this one landing place that was able to manage. I guess it's weird. What I'm asking for is some kind of meta management layer, so that, you've got Steam that manages your games, you've got Origin that manages, you got Uplay, and I want something that Windows makes that will manage all of those different applications, so that I just have one place to go. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen. There's nothing in it for them. I mean, if they start to advertise and stuff, then in order to make money from it, then the other services will be like, F that, we're not letting you do it. We're changing our stuff, so because we don't want you to make money off of us, and we're going in an independent direction. And it's kind of screwing up PC gaming, but whatever.
Either that, or maybe if Microsoft could finally fucking take their head out of their ass and start doing things like, if they've got Microsoft exclusive, they've got Xbox exclusive stuff, put that shit out on Windows. They Halo 1 and 2 are the only 2 Halo games that are out on Windows. That's right, isn't it? I don't remember any of the rest of those ever coming out. Gears of War, I think there was only a couple of those. If they're going to make these deals to keep their shit on the Microsoft platform, the fuck do they care if people are playing it on the Xbox or they're playing it on the PC? If they integrate all of the Xbox Live and Gamertag and Marketplace stuff on there, if they could successfully integrate that stuff into Windows in a way that was not offensive like it is with games for Windows Live, where you're literally running a thing on top of another thing, then maybe they could draw people more into getting on board with them in the PC if they were able to offer stuff on the PC that nobody else could offer. Can you imagine what kind of cool it would be if you could only buy, if they offered Halo 4 on the PC, but you could only buy it through the Windows Store, right? You could only buy it through Games for Windows or whatever. That could give them some traction, but
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, I guess something has to be done at some point here. Otherwise, we're all just there's just too much gobbledygook. And they had that weird thing not that long ago where I don't remember which services it was, but it was like, you know, somebody bought out somebody else and had to like absorb their licensing and titles into the new service. Mm-hmm. It's one of the major services. You know, it's like something that like GameStop runs or something. I can't remember anymore. And so most of the games transferred over, but some of the other ones were just like you just couldn't get them anymore. Like even though you bought them through the service, you could still play it if you downloaded it, but if you ever lost it, you were done. Well, you could never get it again.
That segues nicely into our next story, which is also about Games for Windows Live, which is that Games for Windows Live Marketplace is shutting down on August 22nd. But the client is still going to be operational. So they're shutting down the ability to buy anything on Games for Windows Live, or the Games for Windows Live client, but you can still go out and download. Because, I mean, like, for me, this is kind of a concern because, like, I have Fallout 3, and I bought all the you know, you could only buy the DLC for Fallout 3 on the PC through Games for Windows Live. I bought the app through Steam, and then I bought the DLC for Games for Windows Live, and so it was always this terrible bullshit Frankenstein gaming type of thing. I don't know. So part of me wishes that for stuff like this, I mean, how much goddamn money could they still be making on Fallout 3 DLC? Why don't they just make that shit free now? Be like, do you have Fallout 3? The DLC is free. Just go get it. We don't give a shit anymore. Nobody's buying it. I mean,
they want to sell all those gold and platinum editions and cram it all into a box set and give some maps and sprinkle some glitter on it and everything.
Well, I mean, I think that Skyrim is still selling. They have like a Game of the Year edition that just came out or something that has all the DLC for that. But this is fucking Fallout 3, man. They've been I don't think they could still last Steam sale. I think they had like the Fallout 3 collector's edition with all the DLC for like $7 total for the whole thing. Wow. I mean, like that's what 5 pieces of DLC in Fallout 3 for under $10 or something like that. It's crazy. I don't know. I would like somebody. What I would like is I would just like for somebody to take the leap and do that and set a precedent where other people have to start following them, being like, well, fuck it, man. Bethesda says every 5 years, once a game hits 5 years, we're just going to make all of the DLC for it free. You still have to buy the actual game.
Well, did you see like the recent Humble Bundle deal where you get Dead Space 1, Dead Space 3, Medal of Honor, Crysis 2 Maximum, Mirror's Edge, and Burnout Paradise for $1?
No.
Yeah,
that's
all
awesome.
those games for all $1. And then if you spend $4.82, you get Battlefield 3 and the Sims starter pack as well.
What? Is that still going on?
Yeah.
Holy shit. I might have to go do that.
Amazing. And like probably all Humble Bundles will probably unlock some other stuff before too long here. And it's just, so if they can offer all that for $1, then why can't they just, like you're saying, give you this DLC stuff?
Oh, it's all on Origin. I see. So
no, it's actually it's both.
Oh, really?
It's weird though. Only like I did it, and most of the games are on Steam except for Dead Space 3 and Battlefield 3,
right?
And I think The Sims 3. Although The Sims 3 might be on Steam at this point. There was some problem with it, they said on there. All the rest of them were downloadable. And the weird thing is you get both sets of codes.
Cool.
So you can totally give the codes to somebody else if they don't mind, like, say, installing Origin or whatever. So
Humble Bundle is awesome. I just bought, there was a soundtrack Humble Bundle that came up for $1 to up to $10, you got the soundtrack for Fez, FTL, Gunpoint, Monaco, Leisure Suit Larry, and World of Goo. And World of Goo and Leisure Suit Larry I don't really care about, but Monaco, Gunpoint, FTL, and Fez all had fantastic soundtracks. And I paid, it's Humble Bundle, so you set your price, and it's up to $10. You get more if you pay over $10. And I gave him $5 and got that. And I figure that's a hell of a deal for $5.
Yeah, it's all for charity anyway. So you can feel good inside and feel like you did something for the world.
My heart is it's a black and shriveled thing kept alive by cybernetics from the future. So I feel nothing for anyone, Kevin. Not even when they shoot the dog in the TV show. I'm just like, oh, shit. All right. No, that's not true. I don't actually laugh at all. Xbox. So we got another story here, which is pretty cool. I actually thought this was pretty interesting. The Xbox One has this and this is probably not going to respond. This is not going to apply to that many things, but they have this season pass guarantee thing. That if you bought a season pass for a game on the 360, it'll carry over to the Xbox One. And so far, it's only a few things: Call of Duty, Ghost, and Battlefield 4. And it sounds like they might have something from Ubisoft, like maybe Assassin's Creed 4 or something like that. But that's I don't know. We did a lot of banging on Microsoft and Xbox One recently. I think that's pretty cool that if you pre-ordered Ghost and Battlefield 4 and you like bought an edition that had the season pass in it, that you get to just, you could transfer that over. There's also this other story about how Amazon has let people upgrade their 360 pre-orders to Xbox One pre-orders for like $10 or something like that.
I'm not this is weird. I have both systems pre-ordered, and I can afford to buy games and everything, but I'm not. I'm totally going to wait. It's weird, because I'll probably get the system and I won't have any games for it.
Yeah.
But I'm totally going to wait for the reviews.
Yeah.
Because I keep getting burned. I keep getting burned on launch titles. And I'm just, Zombie U turned out good.
Yeah.
But everything else I got for the Wii U and like the 3DS and everything else I've been purchasing has just been crap. The things that I expect to be good are just rubbish. So I refuse. And the only reason I think Zombie U I got that was I think you guys said it was good at first or something, or you mentioned it, and then that's why I bought it. So technically I kind of got a review from that. But I'm just waiting, because I don't know. I'd not dropped in $60 on a game and just to find out it's absolute garbage just because I need to have something with the console.
Right. I think, see, the thing is that I think for me, what I'm going to be using those consoles for when they first come out, I mean, especially in the PlayStation, even this Gamescom we'll talk about next week, they've got they announced a whole bunch of indie stuff, indie things that are coming to PlayStation 4, which, quite frankly, I mean, I've played most of those because I'm such a Steam addict, but I think that for me, what it's going to be is I want to play the PS4 and Xbox One version of the games that are going to be on all those platforms. So, like, I want to play Assassin's Creed 4, but on the PlayStation 4, and I could be fairly assured that it's not going to be that much different on the PlayStation 4, because these are those, cross-generational launch titles where it's like, it'll look a little bit better, right? And the frame rate may be a little bit better. There may be a couple, one or two things to try to entice you. But if it's $60 on the PlayStation 3 and it's $60 on the PlayStation 4, it's not like the PlayStation 4 version of Assassin's Creed or Watch Dogs or something like that. It's going to be stupendously different. So I'm just going to go ahead. I think my whole thing is...
Well, yeah, you want to get it on the best system, but I don't know if you'd want to... I mean, just rent it. I mean, I don't know. It's like... Because I guess what I'm saying is that, I'd almost feel disappointed getting some of these games right now, like purchasing them, to find out that they're only slightly better than the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 versions, because... you spent like $500,000 on the console. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
You really want to sit down and have it just kind of blow you away. And I don't know. I don't know if any of these titles, maybe they will. But again, I just got to wait for the reviews to come out. And people say, this is the next best thing to video gaming ever or something, and then I'll be like all over it. But I'm going to wait.
So I'm looking at the launch list right here, and to be honest, it seems like you could probably get away with most of these. Look like they're going to be cross-platform. So you could,
right.
Like on the PlayStation 4. Let me go down the list here and see which of these are probably going to be PlayStation 4. I'll just roll down them. NBA 2K14 is obviously going to be on both. Call of Duty Ghosts is everywhere. Skylanders SWAT Force probably not going to be. And still Skylanders. Need for Speed Rivals is probably going to be on everything. Battlefield 4 on everything. Madden 25 on everything. FIFA, NBA Live, Killzone Shadowfall, Drive Club, Knack, which is garbage. Fuck that game. I fucking hate that game. Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag is going to be on everything. Watch Dogs, everything. Just Dance, everything. Lego Marvel Superhero. So of those, you've got 3 games that are going to be specific that you would need to have a PlayStation 4, Killzone, Drive Club, and Knack. And then on the Xbox One side... I'm going to go through the ones that I haven't already listed off. Crimson Dragon, Dead Rising 3, Fighter Within, Killer Instinct, Loco Cycle, Peggle 2, really? Peggle 2, Xbox One? Okay. Power Star Golf, Rise, Son of Rome, and yeah, most of the rest of the stuff looks like it's going to be cross-platform. So, I mean, you could... I don't know. I would probably say that when we get ours, we'll probably get it with one game. And it'll probably be one of those ones that I listed off. For the PlayStation, it'll be Killzone, Drive Club, or Killzone, or it'll probably be Killzone, because quite frankly, neither Jason nor myself is big into racing games, and, fuck you, Knack. And on the Xbox One, it'll probably be Rise, or it'll probably be Dead Rising 3, actually, because, everybody likes some zombies. But I think you could just pick and choose. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
I mean, there's a lot of good games.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying, they all have the potential to be really good. But I mean, I guess to me, the difference is, you rent, I rent. It's really the question of which one do you want to own? And that's where I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait.
I see. I think I want to follow through on the long time-honored tradition of buying a launch game for a console, bringing it home, putting it in, starting it up, and going, oh, this kind of sucks.
I know.
It looks really good, but it kind of sucks, man. I think I want to play the other game that I didn't buy, that I bought for my old console.
So depressing when it happens. Then you almost feel like you don't even want to turn on the console anymore, like you stained it.
Yeah.
I just find myself, leaving consoles alone for, half a year after things like that, and just be, frowning at them, damn you. That would be more fun.
At least I've talked about it before, but at least a few of those games seem like they could be at least somewhat interesting. I remember when I bought my PlayStation 3 and had to wait 6 months to really get anything. There wasn't even a shitty launch. I mean, there was Genki or whatever, Genji, with the real-time weapon switching and some dumb shit like that. And I was like, I was savvy enough when I bought my shit to know that's going to be dumb. I ain't buying it. So, all right, well, let's get through here. We're running a little bit over here, but one last story that I feel like I want to get out there, because I know Jason's thoughts about this, but I would like to get your thoughts on this, is the International Game Developers Association is considering starting support groups for developers to deal with the harassment that they face from fans on Twitter and Facebook and social media and forums and shit like that. I think it sounds like this is directly, there were two things. There was Phil Fish and the whole Fez 2 thing that went down. And then I think there was also somebody, I briefly read over a news blurb talking about Call of Duty Ghost developers that were doing interviews talking about making minor changes to the game. People were like, your family should die in a fire, and I hope your wife gets raped or something like that. Some just terrible, terrible shit that people were saying to these people online. And I don't know. I think this. I talked a lot about this, but I'm kind of interested to know, Kevin, what your take is on the whole. How you feel about fans that get real shitty with people, with developers and content creators and stuff like that on the internet.
Well, how do you? I don't. I mean, I know kind of what you're saying, but I mean, give me an example, or because I'm missing it.
I mean, Phil Fish was the one that was a good example, or where he put out his game, and they were making Fez 2, and there was a whole thing with him and this guy Marcus Beer on game trailers where they got into a pissing match online, and he said, I think you should just go kill yourself. And Phil Fish is shitty at talking to people. He always comes off like a douchebag. But you get people like him, that when this stuff happens, you get all these people who roll up on Twitter or go to their website or whatever, and they're just vitriolic as shit to them. You're a terrible person. You should go die. Get the fuck out of this industry. You're a piece of shit. There was that woman over at, I can't ever remember her name, the woman over at BioWare. There was one of the writers on Dragon Age 2 that there was a blurb that came out about her where she said, I'm really more interested in the game's story than I am about the actual gameplay mechanics of the game. And from there it was just well, you're the reason that Dragon Age 2 was bad, you bitch cow. I hope you fucking get, or just, it's just the general way that the more high profile you are, if you're a developer on something that's high profile and people don't like it, you get these trolls who come in who just, they will come in and they will fucking ladle personal, not just you suck, but really kind of off-putting personal abuse on you based on your looks or something you said in an interview or whatever, that they will just hound you. And that, Phil Fish canceled Fez 2 because he was like, I can't take this anymore. And
I really think that, the problem is and it's natural, is that you look at everyone that's talking to you in these comments and posts and things, that they're all your peers. You know, they're at your age and they're just as successful as you, or they're more successful than you.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that the vast majority of people that are typing this crap are children.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that they're in that, you know, maybe under, you know, I don't want to lump in some 20-year-olds as kids, but under 25.
Mm-hmm.
Because people that are older than 25 have got better things to do than comment about all these things. Even, you know, even the people like us that are like, you know, really into video games and stuff, we're not probably spending a lot of time writing rude comments about anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the only people that are really doing that are people that are just immature kids, and the occasional nut job guy that's bedridden or in a wheelchair or something that just doesn't get out and see the sun. It's just angry. But for the most part, I just think that, you know, every time somebody just writes nonsense, you know, I mean, what is that? Bill and, or was it Silent Bob and Jay and Silent Bob went around to these houses and they were all kids.
Yep.
And they would knock them out or whatever the heck it was. And that's, I really believe that. I mean, I just think that the vast majority of them are kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that there seems like there's a fairly large contention, and this is Jason's contention as well when we talked about this a couple podcasts ago about the whole Phil Fish thing, is there seems to be a very much a response to this that is just fucking man up and deal with it. And I think that to a certain degree, I can get on board with that. The problem is that sometimes this shit gets so personal that it's hard to ignore it. It's hard. I mean, like, you know, like this guy with the Call of Duty thing. If somebody threatens your family and they're just an anonymous person online, like, you have to wonder, when should you be worried about that? And how much should we be holding people accountable for saying things like that? Like, there was a news story a while back about somebody who said a kid who said some stuff, and they arrested him or whatever, and it was a terrible thing. So it kind of gets into this question of how seriously should you take it when people say, because I know that, like, you know, there's websites that I read that are all about gender politics in gaming and about how, you know, female gamers or female game critics or whatever will get this, like, rapey stuff pointed at them, and you go, how legitimate should you take this stuff? Because I don't know. I think maybe just a better way to say it is that a lot of times we forget that there is a silent majority of people that like what you do and don't comment, and maybe those of us who are in that silent majority. I mean, I've done it. You know, you watch trailers or look at stuff. You don't take the time out of your day to go in and say, that was awesome. You just watch it and you go, that looks cool. And then you go on. You don't join in with the bullshit down below it. You're just like, fuck that. I thought it was cool. So maybe, I don't know, maybe some of us...
I don't even think that going in and writing the positive matters, because, you know, you get emails and I get emails, and you could read 100 emails from people that are telling you how great you are. Yeah. The first one that you get that the guy tells you that you're a douchebag is the one that's going to set you off. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to make you sit up at night and wonder, why does that guy hate me?
Yeah.
You know, and I just think it's really experience. I mean, at first that's how you are, and then after a while this stuff just starts to roll off of you, because, you know, I've been to lots of things. You've been to lots of things where you meet people, mm-hmm. and as soon as you put, like, people's faces in front of you, none of that happens anymore. You know what I mean? It's just not the same universe in real life.
Yeah. And I attribute that. See, I have for years wholeheartedly attributed that, because when I worked phone support, you get people say things to you over the telephone, just fucking crazy. And then I went to go work retail where you're face to face, and only the most severe crazy people will be a dick right to your face. And the reason for that is because there's always that offhand chance that you're being a dick to that guy at the counter, and he may just, this is the wrong day, he's going to pick that stapler up and just start fucking beating you to death with it until his coworkers will pull. There's always the offhand chance that somebody is just going to fucking go nuts in person. And I honestly believe that, because I've read some psychological studies about the anonymity of the internet and how people let their inner asshole out, because you don't have to be held accountable for anything that you said. You just create an account, you come in, you say whatever the fuck you want to, and then you just go on your merry way without ever having to, you know, whatever. But
yeah, I mean, I think you have to read between the lines. When a lot of people are losing their, you know, their mind on something that you're working on because you've changed, like, Dante's hair
Yeah.
or whatever. And, you kind of have to realize that what people are really saying is they don't want you to change, the lore of the character or reimagine it or whatever the heck it is. And, you have to approach that material with, a certain amount of understanding, I think, and realize that most of the venting that goes on is just, I don't know, it's just reactionary. It is like kids at recess, you know what I mean? Eventually, one kid's going to pick up a rock and bang you over the head with it, and then you got to call the principal over and he's going to have to go home and get paddled or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. I totally think that there is but I mean, look how many games, there's millions of us are all playing video games now, and I mean, we're all not killing each other in real life. There's a couple of stray people that are doing it, and that blame video games and everything, and I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think to be honest, this is probably a conversation that hews less to video games specifically as it does to just the way that people treat each other online in an anonymous setting. I mean, not just video games, but it could be anywhere. I mean, I've seen people using their real fucking Facebook names in weird conservative or liberal news articles that will just straight up go after each other with some serious passion online when there isn't a chance that person might actually punch him in the face. But then on the other hand, there was one time that I was at a bar and I was trying to talk healthcare reform with a dude, and I thought he was going to legitimately I thought he was going to follow me out to my car and try to fuck me up in the parking lot. Because
oh my God.
I was just like, I don't like people being sick, and so I think healthcare is a good idea.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm also. I mean, I could say my world, I guess, is somewhat. I'm a giant guy.
Yeah.
And so the guy that's going to follow me out to the car is. I mean, unless he's Tiny Lester or something, it's just not going to happen. So
people don't front up on the Kev very often.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm tough or anything. I don't know. This isn't like me challenging anyone to see if they will beat me up. But it's at the same time, I'm just never in that situation where somebody's like, I think I'll go, pick a fight with the tallest dude in the room, and it's just not going to happen.
I'm just imagining now the end of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where they ring your doorbell and you open it up, and they're just like, oh, never mind, sir. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Yeah. I always use my real name whenever. I used to have an alias, you know what I mean? But you know what? The reality is I got tired of always typing in my aliases wherever I was, and then finding it used.
Oh.
And it's just like, then you got to switch it or add numbers to it. People get all fancy and put little characters and X's and O's and things around it. I just like, nobody's using my real name.
Yeah.
I'm just going to use my real name, and I'm not really too worried about somebody finding. I mean, and I've said some bullshit, over the years and things, and maybe people can find it, but I don't care. I mean, because it's just whatever.
Yeah.
You don't understand the context. What are you going to do? You're going to come over and, rip a bush out of my yard or something? I don't know. Back in the BBS days, I mean, we used to get into big fights, and we'd have, people ripping mailboxes off people's houses and hooking car batteries up the phone lines to burn out people's computers and, throwing rocks through people's windows and calling up people and telling them that their daughter is sleeping over somebody's house and creating massive chaos and people bringing guns to because they're going to shoot you. And I mean, it's just
wait. You're saying this stuff actually happened back in those days?
Yeah. Because you just because you could be a dick. I mean, people could get you so mad, and then you ruin your reputation. And reputation was a big deal in BBS days because you had to have a certain amount of rep in order to get the good games for free. And so when somebody would bash you enough, you could snap, and that would happen at times. And then there was times I was just a jerk and would call people up and tell them things, and their parents would get mad. And I've had people at my house, and my brother had to intervene and go out in the hallway with some guy ready to kill me. And there's all kinds of stupid stuff.
Wow, Kevin, I want to hear more about this next time. I want to hear the story about the guy who wanted to kill you and your brother had to intervene.
Teenager crap. Yeah.
All right. Well, I tell you what. Let's move on to a few emails here. I got maybe about half a dozen this week. And our first one is going to come in from Powerbeard. Powerbeard says, "Hey, Jeff and Jason or special guest. I've been following your shows for a while and still enjoy your crazy shenanigans." Well, that's good. I'm worried that our crazy shenanigans are starting to run a little thin. But my question is, have you ever enjoyed a game despite it being buggy or broken? I found myself enjoying an indie game, EYE Divine Cybermancy. I think I bought that on Steam, even though it had some weird bugs or even weirder UI settings. Thankfully, those were resolved, but I still love playing it when it was broken. Hope you my question on the podcast. Yada, 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 yada. Powerbeard. Oh, he donated to us via Patreon. Thank you, Powerbeard. Thank you very much. So, I don't know. What do you think, Kevin? Glitches? Do they, has there been a game you enjoyed despite the glitches?
Coming off the top of my head, I can't think of anything right now. What about you?
I think I'm going to say every game Bethesda has ever released in their entire life, because those games are fucked up when they first come out.
Yeah, that is true.
I waited for Fallout on the PC, but I played Skyrim on my PS3, and that shit was broken for a while with that whole high level slowdown bug thing going on. But yeah, Bethesda.
Yeah,
there's enough good stuff in there.
I mean, that's the kind of thing in general. I mean, if the bugs are there, I mean, I can't name off a particular title. If they're tolerable, that you can continue progressing through the game, and most of the game is okay, that's fine. I mean, there's always going to be some missions that you can't complete and that sort of thing that I can usually brush aside. But then there's other things like before when I was playing Game of Thrones, it just wouldn't start.
Yeah,
and I paid for the game and there was no fix for it. It just wouldn't go. And so that's the kind of thing that, it could really piss you off.
There's been a few. I can't name any one in specifically that I remember, but it used to be the sort of thing that I would run into with PC gaming every once in a while, where you would get a game that you were enjoying that had some kind of bug somewhere through it that would just crash the entire game. And you would go online and you would look to see what had happened, and a lot of times it would be like, well, you need to quit the game and you need to apply this patch, and then you need to start over. And then you get into these things where you're really trying to get around that. Like, I don't want to start this over. I already put fucking 5 hours in this game. I really don't want to go back from the beginning and start it over again. My friend, when he was playing Fallout 3, he played it on the PC, and he got a bug early on in the game that just basically it was one of those weird things you see in a Bethesda game where, like, a character got on the wrong side of something that closed, and then there was an auto save, so the save state made it so that you couldn't reload the game. And this was before games would do that thing where they tiered saves, so you could go back by 2 or 3 saves. So he just had one quick save, and that quick save loaded, and this thing was fucked up, and there was no way to get around it. You couldn't use God tools or cheat tools or anything. It was just fucked, and his option was start over again. And he was like, nope, I'm done with Fallout 3. I'm not going to even beat it because...
I've been there. I mean, because there's been those clipping problems where I've, gotten stuck and the game has been saved and there's no way out of you're just... It's like some weird clipping issue. You just can no longer move and you're stuck in something and, or you have to, revert back to a save that's, so long ago that you're just like...
Yep.
I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But that's for games I just don't care. There's a difference. I will do it for a game I really like, but I'm not going to do it for a game that's mediocre.
It's, what, when you're first playing through a game, I've played through games multiple times over and over again, but when you're first playing through a game, the last fucking thing you want to do is go back any amount of time. 30 minutes is too much because you just got done playing that. So there's no benefit, unless it's a game that's like a roguelike or it's randomly generated or something like that. But, I mean, if it's just, like Last of Us, there's no reason that I would want to go back 2 checkpoints and play the last hour of Last of Us over again. Like, it's just dull at that point. And I remember, I mean, this doesn't really count as a bug, but back in the old PC gaming days, especially with FPSs, they get caught all the time. Because there was no limit on quick saves, and so you would rely on your quick save, because your quick save, quick load, quick save, quick load. Never go back and do a manual save, and you would quick save in just the wrong place. You'd end up reflexively quick saving right before a rocket was about to hit you in the face, and so when you would quick load, you would load and then die, and then you would load and then die. And you would try in that 1 second. I remember Red Faction was like this for me. In that 1 second that you reload, you try to do something real fast to keep yourself from dying. And sometimes you could, and sometimes it was just like, nope, you're fucked. and you have to go back to the manual save, which is probably the beginning of the game, because back in those old days they didn't used to like, you know, auto save at the beginning of a level or whatever. So I don't miss that shit. Some things I have nostalgia for, that no.
Yeah.
All right, and our next email comes in from Justin. And this is something, I got this email and I really wanted to read it. I'm kind of curious about your take on this too, Kevin. Something interesting I noticed during your playthroughs is how you lean towards certain tones of video games over others. Seems that you tend to be harsher on more cutesy games like DuckTales, Pikmin, or Ni no Kuni, while you absolutely drool over more gratuitous or ultra-violent games like Deadpool, Saints Row, and Just Cause 2. Could be oversimplifying this, but do you feel the tone or content of a game can seriously affect how you objectively judge it? I don't know. I haven't really talked to you very much about this particular thing, but I don't know. What do you think?
You know, I mean, I don't think you can look at video games completely in a bubble. Like, it's too difficult, because what's fun for one person is not going to necessarily be fun for everybody else. You have to have some level of generalization, and the thing is that as we're older, we're not going to be as, you know, wrapped up in cutesy video games. But if they were doing something that was really cool in, you know, from a gameplay perspective, we might sit there and say, wow, this is really inventive and fun, and we're having a blast playing the game. But a lot of times, just, you know, I think a lot of it is just, frankly, I just think it's overrated. I mean, I think Nintendo, for instance, because I know it's really what we're talking about, makes a lot of great games, but I think that they're just games that are very solidly polished, and they've done a great job of you know, working out all of the stuff to present you with some gameplay that's pretty dumbed down. And so, you know, you play it and you're like, this is, you know, competent and well done, and I can't point at it and say this is terrible, but at the same time I can also say to you that I really don't want to play it. It's just a weird thing. I don't know. I don't know.
To me, I think it's just that like the games that he listed off, for me, and I don't know, maybe this is very similar to what you were saying. I was trying to think, well, we're talking of games that kind of fall under this cutesy category that I may have liked, because I'm sure there's some out there. But the thing is that a lot of times games like that, I'm going to take the three games that he just said here: DuckTales, Pikmin, Ni no Kuni. I don't like all those games for different reasons.
DuckTales, funny.
I really didn't like. I really did not like that DuckTales remastered game. Like, it felt like they were just like, they were straight up trading on nostalgia. Like, hi, you remember DuckTales, right? Here it is again for $15, and you play it and go, yeah, I would have rather spent $15 on the NES cart of DuckTales and just played original NES DuckTales. But for me, it's that a lot of times those games tend to rely on nostalgia, art style, and tone more than they rely on gameplay. Like, I know this is not a popular opinion, and it's not something that people who like this franchise are going to in any way, they're all going to lay into me for this. I don't give a shit. I played Pikmin 1. I played Pikmin 3. I think Pikmin is an RTS franchise with shitty controls. It's like StarCraft, but it's hard to play. And it's like they want to make up for this with like, oh, but you're really tiny and you've got these guys. Oh, look at this little Pikmin and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. Like, it's hard to play. Ni no Kuni was boring. Like, it had interesting gameplay mechanics, but it took so fucking long to do anything. And maybe that's exactly what you're saying, is that, you know, like when Skyward Sword came out, I had a huge problem with Skyward Sword because they kept telling me how to do stuff over and over and over again. And it's just like, I know what the bugs do, game. And I mean, like, I don't necessarily even think that it has anything to do with the complexity of the game mechanics, because I've played games that are super simple. Dive Kick came out today. It's a fighting game with 2 buttons, Kevin. You dive, you kick. You can only literally they don't even let you use the D-pad to go through the menus. You use the 2 buttons to go through the entire menu system. Dive and kick. I think that game is great. I love it. I think it's a simple concept that is well executed. But like,
yeah.
I don't.
But see, Pikmin is a perfect example, because like I was playing Pikmin 3. you're not doing anything in Pikmin 3 that's creative.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is that you're just trying to figure out what they've developed that you have to, like, do.
Mm-hmm.
You're just doing, like, a job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like, there's a wall, and you got to send your guys to the wall to destroy it, and then you got to grow some more Pikmin so you can move a box, and you're not doing anything creative. You're not thinking, really. You're just trying to figure out what the guy did, and then go, okay, now this is what I've got to do. Where there are games that, action games are one example. You could jump over a guy and kick him from behind or kick him in the face or whatever you're going to do, but at least you're having some thought process about how you're going to go about accomplishing kicking the guy's ass.
Right.
And there's all sorts of games like this. Like if you're playing a first-person shooter, and people that play all of these fluffy games tend to point to first-person shooters being all the same and stuff, but you have choices. You can move around and hide and shoot or go in guns blazing or sneak around and things, and you're just not there's no choice here. It's not like you can suddenly say, you know what, I'm going to make it so the yellow Pikmin start fighting and killing the red Pikmin so they can turn into a fuchsia Pikmin of giant size, and then we can take over the world. I mean, I don't know. There's nothing creative about it.
I mean, that kind of lends also just to the whole tonal problem. And one of the things of these games that you're talking about is that most video games out there are based on conflict, right? I mean, most games are based on. We don't have a lot of games that are about talking it over. We don't have a lot of games that are about peaceful solutions to stuff. And so the fact is that take Ni no Kuni and pick one of the other ones, Saints Row, okay? Like Ni no Kuni, you're destroying these enemies and you're going forward, but it all feels so fucking sanitized from a story perspective that I was never concerned about what was happening. The same is kind of true of Pikmin. Like, and maybe it's just me. Maybe as I get older, and maybe it's the sort of thing where we have a difference between the type of entertainment that we generally tend to serve up to younger audiences and the type of entertainment that is generally considered to be for adult audiences. And that for me, the danger of what was going to I didn't ever get any sense of peril to the Pikmin or to the dudes in the spaceship or in Ni no Kuni even. Like it was like, oh, this evil guy has taken over the world. Do you play Ni no Kuni?
Yeah.
Do you remember the thing with Ni no Kuni where it's like the evil wizard who has taken people's emotions and made them sad and shit?
Yeah,
That is not a giant threat. Like, I know we make jokes about, like, you could just give that guy a Xanax or whatever, but, like, okay, you got two scenarios here. You've got this one scenario where this guy is taking people's hearts and making them sad, and the world is a gloomy place. And then you've got another scenario, let's take Just Cause 2, where you've got, like, these terrorist organizations that are blowing people up and subjugating human beings and turning them into, I don't even remember what was happening in Saints Row. It was just violence. And, like, I could affect violence against those people as a way of progressing the game. Whereas in Ni no Kuni, it was just like, oh, you've got so much happiness. Can I borrow some of your happy to give to this guy who's real sad? And I gave it to him, and now he's not sad anymore. And I'm like, I don't care. I just don't care. Like, maybe I'm a hard-hearted, jaded asshole who needs some adult violence, put that in quote fingers or whatever. But for me, it's just that you have to up the ante to a certain point for me to even give a shit about what's going on. And those games,
because the narrative doesn't have tension like that. There's no tension in someone being sad. You know what I mean? It's just whatever. Death is more final, and it's a threat, and you've got to deal with it. And being sad isn't. And I don't know. I mean, but I can see other people's arguments. People. I'm sure the Amish would like the Nintendo games more than the violent games where you hit people with the big dildo and stuff in Saints Row. It's just, it's different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
It's all it is. And there's really nothing you can do except be honest when you're doing a review and just tell people how you really feel about it. And if I would not believe you if you were to come on here and say you enjoyed, like, Ni no Kuni. I would just think you're a shill at that point for the game company. But I don't want to have you lie to me. So it'd be better that you're just honest and be yourself and
But
don't be overly objective.
But I also feel like some of that stuff, like some of this gets bloated out of proportion as well. Like that. just because there's some games like that I don't like, but there's some games that I do. Like, I really liked It'll Do, the Zelda clone that they put out. I thought it had a good heart. It seemed really cool. I really liked Brothers on XBLA that came out. That was kind of a fairy tale game where there was no blood and guts and gore, but you still wandered around. It was like a fairy tale outing. I'm trying to think. I'm looking through my Steam list right now. I know there's been stuff like that that's out there that I did like. Like, it doesn't.
Like Braid is a good
it doesn't have to be bloody. It just has to catch my attention. And those games, they don't really get my attention very much because they're not doing anything that seems really. Thomas Was Alone. Did you ever play that? It's like,
no,
it's literally a platformer where you play as a square, and then you meet like a rectangle and a bigger square and various different geometric shapes that are the different characters in that game, and it's very kind of whimsical. I don't have any problem with that. Like, it doesn't have to be buckets of blood. It just has to have some teeth to it. And DuckTales, Pikmin, and Ni no Kuni ain't got no fucking teeth, and that's why I didn't like them very much. So, yeah.
A lot of rage on Rage Select this week, folks.
Yeah.
Just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, Jason's back. He stoked the fires. All right, here's a good one. This is from Chris. Chris says, "Dear Rage Select, I've heard a lot of talk about how this new generation of consoles coming out won't really be that different from the current gen consoles. It got me thinking about a business model where Microsoft or Sony could release a new version of their console every 2 or 3 years with slightly updated specs and features, and the consoles and games would be compatible with all new and previous devices instead of releasing a console with a decade-long lifespan that's not compatible with previous versions. Perhaps it could be similar to Apple's method of releasing new versions of the iPhone. What are your thoughts on this idea? Stay classy, Chris." He also says, "P.S. You guys should play Ride to Hell Retribution, the dojo. I bet it would be hilarious." I got a lot of people requesting that. I'm not really willing to spend $30 for a game that I know is garbage. That's complete and total crap. I mean, I understand it would be funny, but I could buy 10 indie games for $30 and Ride to Hell. So, I don't know. Maybe you guys, somebody on Steam want to gift me a copy. Well, maybe we'll get a chance to take a look at it. Random plug. But I don't know. Do you think that would work? I think the first thing that I could probably think of would just be the compatibility issue where, if you had a new console every 2 to 3 years that played the same games as the previous console, how would it make it look better? Because the game would be coded for a previous version. Like, I don't know if you could even put more hardware shaders or something in there.
I'm sorry, Jeff. You read it so fast, I wasn't quite sure what the question was. I apologize.
No, it's all right.
It was so thick, and then you blew through it.
No.
Can you just summarize it a little bit?
No,
for me?
I sometimes, it's a good reminder as I sometimes get to talking a little bit too fast. So he's talking about the consoles. He said, talking about the new generation of consoles, it got me thinking about a model where Microsoft or Sony could release a new version of their console every 2 or 3 years with slightly updated specs and features, and the consoles and games would be compatible with all new and previous versions instead of releasing a console with a decade-long lifespan that's not compatible with the previous version.
Yeah, well, I mean, they tried that, but I mean, there's economics behind it. I mean, the microchips keep changing, and what are you going to do? They can't keep, like, Sony wasn't going to keep making the cell processor. It was done. IBM was like, I'm not doing it anymore, and they were in it alone, and then I think they sold off their fab that used to make that stuff, and so they were actually getting another company to produce those. Mm-hmm. And so, what are they going to, it didn't exist anymore. They can't just stick with it. They're not going to, it's just too much money, and I don't know. I mean, look, Xbox was originally, the first Xbox was originally like the current Xbox, meaning it was basically a PC.
Yeah.
It was a PC processor, PC graphics, and now the new one's PC But in the middle, they got a better deal from IBM that was just saying, hey, why don't you use our, power processor or whatever, and everybody did. Nintendo did, Sony did.
Yeah.
Microsoft did, and now everybody went x86.
I don't. Plus, it seems like even if you're using off-the-shelf PC parts like they are for these next consoles, there's only so cheap that you can build a console that's able to run games at the type of fidelity that we're used to these days. Like if you say, if Sony or Microsoft, they release a new console every couple of years, but that's maybe the problem with this guy's scenario is just that every 2 or 3 years with slightly upgraded specs and features, but they can still play the games from previous years, but they look better. Like you've kind of got a separation there that you're not considering between the hardware and the software. Is that if the software is getting better, the hardware has to get better to be able to accommodate that. I don't know how you would do that otherwise. Like I think it would take some kind of revolution in the way that games are created if they were to start making, I guess, like games. If they were to start to like make essentially PC games that look better on this console than they do on the previous console because you can adjust resolution or render settings or detail models or something up, but that would mean a lot more. That would mean a lot more programming, and it would mean that who the fuck wants to do that? Like, I hate that would be. You buy a new console every 2 or 3 years because if you keep playing with your current console, games are going to start being choppier or slower or look shittier. Like,
how often do you go back and play a PlayStation 2 game right now? I don't. I know I like having the option to, and guess what? I will plug in my PlayStation 2 at that point. Yeah. I really don't care that much about backwards compatibility. I get it. People have these big game libraries. They don't want to throw them away. They want to be able to keep playing them. But look, you still got that other system. Put it on a different TV in another room that you can go back and play it on, Play it and put that one in the rec room. Keep the new console up by the main TV. Or if you're in a dorm room, I guess you do without. Or stack them on top of each other, glue them together. Just whatever you got to do. They make switches and all that sort of stuff to toggle between them. And I just don't think it's that. Backwards compatibility is just like, it's probably an added cost that they're throwing onto these consoles, and they don't always work very well, and some games aren't compatible and some are, and I just forget it. Just let's play the new games. Yeah. That's all.
Plus, currently right now, I think that this current model works very well for what we are doing. Having that shift we have multiple emails, multiple stories out there right now. Everybody's kind of it's kind of a big thing on everybody's mind. Hell, you were just saying it earlier. It's like there's parts of us that say, why the fuck do we even need new consoles? Like they're not a huge quantum shift in the way that we're going to play video games. The games we're currently playing, but they look better. And so you say, I'd almost rather wait. I'd almost rather have the current generation of consoles be stretched out for another 3 or 4 years. Stretch them all the way to the breaking point. Stretch them until you can't stretch them anymore in order to make way for something like... Because I would much rather wait for the next console to be designed with something like the Oculus Rift in mind or some new technology rather than this. So
I agree. Really where video gaming is going to go is really going to be determined by where we all decide to buy our games from, too. They're going to go where the money is, and... It just, if we're all still buying first-person shooters, they're going to make first-person shooters, and if we all buy the Oculus Rift, like we all should, then they'll start making Oculus Rift.
Dude, I had this wonderful idea. I had this beautiful idea. So I was talking about Oculus Rift, and I was listening to this podcast. They were talking about Oculus Rift, and then hooking up like a Kinect so that the Oculus Rift, like it can see where you are to feed input back to the game so that you're able to have like arms or whatever. But I had a better idea than that. Put like a wide angle IR camera on the front of the Oculus Rift so that when you pull your hand up in front of it, it can do the Kinect thing and basically map the bones onto your hand so that when you're inside of the game, if you look at your hands, that you can actually see your hands inside of the game. And then you can use them to manipulate stuff inside of the game world or whatever. Like, I don't really like all that motion stuff with graphics or whatever, but I think that if you had a controller and you were playing the game, but then you got to a place where you had to look down at a door and reach out and open it up, I think that having the Oculus Rift directly have access to where your hand is in relationship to where your eyeballs are, that could be awesome. Because then as you turn 360 degrees, your hands will totally be there. Ah!
Yeah, no, exactly. I think we'll see that. I think that Oculus Rift is the first step towards going where gamers want it to go. You know what I mean? It's really an independent project. Nobody started this off with, it's like a Kickstarter of some sort, right? They didn't just get like millions of dollars of investment money from like Electronic Arts or something to go in a new direction. and it's got all of this backing. Like, I do a lot of kickstarting funding, and like almost every game that's like on there has like at least a stretch goal to be on Oculus Rift. I mean, that thing's going to be so well supported when it launches, and good.
Yeah.
Good, because I think, it's we as gamers can decide the shift to go where we want things to go. And if we all just choose to play Angry Birds
right.
instead of Oculus Rift, then we're going to get more Angry Birds. And it's we all have to just, we vote with our dollars. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, like that. It's interesting. We talked about this at length, so, whatever. But like the feeling that I had with each generational shift before this one is the feeling that I got when I put on the Oculus Rift for the first time. Like, when I first saw video games, like good-looking video games in HD on an HD TV, I was like, holy shit, this is something new, and I ain't never seen it before. Like, this is better looking than I've ever seen a video game look in my entire life. I mean, for that matter, everything, Blu-rays, TV, whatever. Before that, the jump from sprites on the Super Nintendo Genesis to the PlayStation 1 where you saw 3D, and it was just like, holy shit, I've never seen anything like that. It's like what you see in the movie theater. It's like Tron and shit out there. And then the jump, to the PS2 Saturn era or whatever, where you're just like, oh, wow, the 3D finally looks good. Like, that is the feeling that I got when I put on the Oculus Rift and was just like, oh, fuck, I want this now. Like, this is the future and shit. So
I see. I mean, I haven't put it on, but I get it. I mean, I just think that, it's the future. Yeah. Exactly what you're saying.
The future.
It needs to be. I don't want it to be a failure, because it's, we looked at wearing these head things years and years before. Atari had a headset for Missile Command, and they showed it at, like, I don't know if it was a Consumer Electronics Show or E3 back then when the Jaguar was still around. But it actually got really good praise. Mm-hmm. Like, people were really cool with it. And, you looked up at the sky, and missiles were coming straight at you, and you had a gun, I think, and you shot them out of the sky. And also, at that time, Sega was also working on one that was sort of secret at the time. And then it just, because of whatever, maybe it was because of Virtual Boy being a complete and utter hunk of crap, that it just vanished from the, for at least the past decade, if not, 15, 20 years.
For my money, I feel like what has made this possible has been smartphones. It's been the miniaturization of LCD panels and some of the micro circuitry that they've started to develop for these things. Because one of the biggest problems that if you ever did that stuff before, like I used to test one at a lab, and there was a Magic Carpet ride at Disney World that you could put the VR helmet on and do, is that they were really kludgy and heavy and just, they were unpleasant to wear, and they were very low resolution. But we're getting to a point now with miniaturization that we can get like high pixel density on a small screen, and they don't cost $1 zillion to make. So you can actually get, something that is small, light, and high resolution, which is what needed to happen before this could happen. Because, some of those early things where they were putting either they're putting those real early generation LCD screens in there, and they just looked like crap, and you could never get around the fact that you had 5 pounds worth of machinery strapped to your face. You're just like, God damn, this is expensive. But yeah, I don't know. Kevin, I really want you to find if there's a way, if the Oculus Rift van ever comes to your town, I want you to go stand in line and put that thing on your head, because, man, great. All right, well, we got a couple more questions here, and then we're going to get out of here. This next one is from Diego, and Diego says, "Zup, bros." He uses a Z. "First, let me say thanks for being the first thing I've ever wanted to donate to on the internet." Woo, that's a high praise. I feel like a part of something awesome. I love all the things on the site, all of them. So yeah, thank you and all that jazz. Well, thank you, sir. My question is, how OCD are you guys about games? Do you feel the need to find all the hidden things and areas? I feel like I have reached a point where games are expensive enough that I need to find all the things to feel like I got my money's worth. What are your thoughts? Stay classy. The Chilean Swede, Diego. It's pretty pretty suave handle that guy's got there. The Chilean Swede. What do you think? I think we probably talked about this way back, but we could, if we get repeats on this stuff, we could bring it up. I don't know, where do you draw the line when it comes to getting the stuff in games?
Like collecting all the stuff?
Yeah.
Is that what he's saying?
Yeah. Like collectibles?
No, I don't. No,
not at all.
I'm just trying to finish the game. I know you can be pretty into it. I appreciate that. It's just games to me. It's too much of a time sink. I can't do it. I mean, I want to keep playing more games. Like I want to keep playing new stuff, and I just don't want to spend the next 80 years of my life playing the same game to find that one coin. Because in my life, there's nobody who gives a crap. There's nobody I'm going to go to and say, I got all 100 coins or whatever. Or I collected all of the secret doors keys. And there's no one in my life that's going to care. In fact, most people will just punch me in the back of the head and call me a geek or
come on, Kevin. I care. You can always give me a call and say I got those coins. I'll be like, good job. Way to get those coins.
All that work is probably going to get me a slightly piece of praise that I don't really care about. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Not my thing.
For me, there's like 3 levels, or there's 2 levels of stuff. In a lot of games, you'll have collectibles that give you something that will power you up or make you better. Like in Assassin's Creed, the first thing that I always do in Assassin's Creed, like 2 series and even 3 series, is whenever I go to a new place, I always go and light all the towers or take care of the dudes or do a lot of the side stuff first, because they give you upgrades and they make you more powerful. So I will grind out those side things in order to be more powerful when I go do the main story. But there are some things, like in Assassin's Creed, the flags, where there's like, hey, and I know it. I always know it. This is the first time that I pick one of them up, and the game is like, oh, you just got 1 out of 250 needles in these haystacks in this game. And you go, those needles can go fuck themselves, because I'm not searching the game for 250 of jack shit. Like in Batman Arkham City,
Yeah.
where there were so many of those Riddler things. Like, I got all of them in Arkham Asylum. But in Arkham City, it was like, not only are there so many of them, but some of them are behind these puzzles where it's like, I've been trying to get this one fucking Riddler trophy for a while, and I can't fucking figure out what you want me to do. And I'd really just rather go be Batman than bang my head up against this dumb puzzle. Now, the exception to that is that some games will get to a point where, like, later in the game, Sleeping Dogs was like this, where later in the game you'll get stuff where they will put all of those things on your map, where they'll be like, there are 50 of these statues that we want you to go break, and they're hidden throughout the world. And then, like, 70% of the way through the game, there'll be a merchant that's like, here's a map that shows you where all these statues are. If they do that, I will definitely go back and break all of those fucking statues, because I know where they are. But I don't like it when the developers want me to wander through the world aimlessly looking for stuff. I don't like that. I like to know where I'm going and what I'm doing, because if you just get me like, well, I know it's around here somewhere, but I don't know where, so now I'm just frustrated because I can't find the statue rather than having fun with a video game. So
yeah, I like in the some of these like BioShock games or maybe Dishonored, I like these little voice recorder things that I pick up that I can listen to while I'm still playing the game, and they kind of give me some storyline narrative. And I would actually, if I knew how, I would purposely seek those out, because that to me seems like it's making the story more interesting. Where, say, Riddler trophies or coins in the sky and things have no value to me, like in the game world.
Yeah.
You know what it's just, they're just there to keep you occupied. And I would rather just have something that, purposely moves the narrative in forward. So.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff is worth seeking out because it's of value. And a lot of times it's like in BioShock Infinite that the hump to finding those things is not that high. That in Batman Arkham City, like, what you got at the end of collecting every one of those Riddler things was a 5-minute or 10-minute mission. Like, I went and watched it on YouTube because I wanted to see. But yeah, I don't know. The answer, I guess, to his question is not super OCD. So, All right, and I got one more here, Kevin, and this one's a pretty easy one. My question, this is from Philip. He says, my question this week is going to test your manhood. What was the saddest video game moment to you that made you tear up or at least made you sad afterwards? Thanks again, Philip. What do you think, Kevin?
Heavy Rain?
Heavy Rain?
No, I didn't tear up in that game. That game made me angry. I never really got. I don't think I've ever gotten really emotional over a video game. But I mean, there's certainly moving in a more and more in that direction. You know, where they can pull emotions out of you. I mean, I've always found that horror video games are well done in the sense that they're the only game that's managed to bring emotion out of me, be that fear or whatever it is, other than, just your general anxiety and, excitement for playing, or trying, anger or whatever, the usual emotions for playing a game. Sadness is one that I'm not familiar with video games yet, but I think we're getting closer.
I can think of, let's see, the end of the first chapter in The Last of Us. I said earlier that it was cheap, and it is cheap, but it was effective. It did make me sad. In Shadows of the Colossus, there's a point towards the end where something happens with your horse that made me just go, whoa, 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 no, 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 no. And then when I learned it had to happen, it sucked. Metal Gear Solid 4? Parts of the end of Metal Gear Solid 4 kind of got to me just because it was the end of a very long story, and that kind of stuff will often get to me. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of a softie from with a good story. Like, if you spend time getting me to know a bunch of characters. I mean, Persona 4. The end of Persona 4 made me tear up a little bit because it was the end of a 50, 60-hour RPG. So, it felt like a big chunk of time that I put into this, and so by the time I got to the end, it was like, I'm invested. I'm totally invested in what you're doing here. And as long as you can do that, I get a little misty. No biggie. I don't know.
That's good. I'm just a cold, hard human being. I can't. Nothing's gonna move me. I don't cry in movies except when E.T. died. That choked me.
Sometimes it pisses me off. Like, I don't know if you know this about me, Kevin. I don't know if I've ever even talked about this in the show. I hate the movie Up. I hate it so much. I watched it once in the theater. I will never fucking watch that movie ever again in my entire life. And fuck that movie, because it is emotionally manipulative as hell. And because it was so effective at its emotional manipulation, I was never able to get over the sad part at the beginning of that movie. So the rest of, talking dog, fucking South American dumb bird, whatever. Like, it's all so fucking sad about that dude. It's spoilers for Up, about that dude and his wife, that, like, I couldn't get past that. Like, it was a sad story about this sad man and this sad kid whose dad didn't care enough about him that he went and made friends with this fucking crotchety old asshole, that I was just sad the entire time. And I didn't feel anything good about that movie. I was just like, I hate this movie. And I've met people over the years. I'll tell you what, folks, in the comments, and I don't know, Kevin, did you like the movie Up? Did you think it was good?
Well, I find it to be about the same as all of the other kid movies, which I get it, but I'm not a big kid movie watcher. Mm-hmm. So that's all it is to me.
Well,
not a very good answer, but it's just okay.
Well, so and you know what, the funny thing about Up is that it's been a thing that that every time I tell somebody this, it's been really eye-opening for me not liking that movie. Because every time I tell somebody that I don't like the movie Up, they're just like, oh, no, it was so good. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't like it. It made me real sad. I didn't like it. I watched it once, and I understand why people liked it. I don't ever want to watch it again, and fuck that movie. Like, oh, no, you need to watch it again, and just blah, blah. I'm like, nope, I don't want to do it. Like, no, just, you need to watch it. No, there was so many good things. I'm like, nope, I don't want to watch it. And I've had friends of mine that I've had to tell, I'm not going to watch it. You need to stop trying to tell me to watch it again, because it made me sad, and I don't want to be sad like that again. And there's some people in this world who it's just like, they cannot wrap their minds around the fact that you didn't like that, to the point where they will go out of their way. It's like when people tell you to, it's like, oh, you should try some liver and onions. Like, oh, I don't like liver and onions. Oh, but this is the best liver and onions. You should really try it. Anyway, I digress. So it's been late. We recorded a lot today, and that's it. That's all I got, Kevin. thank you so much for coming by. And we need people's email, though, in order to be able to do this. So if you guys have a question, literally about whatever you want to, send it to mail@rageselect.com, and that is mail@rageselect.com. I'm going to repeat this for the third time in the third week. If you send this email anywhere besides mail@rageselect.com, I will not read it on this show. And that's a bitch, because I've actually got some good questions that went to those other email addresses, but I'm a stubborn man of my word, Kevin. I will not read email that does not come to mail@rageselect.com. So if you sent your shit somewhere else, send it where it should go, and I will totally read it on this show. So, Kevin, thank you for coming by.
Absolutely. Always a good time.
And I will talk to you later. So until then, good night, everybody.
Yeah.